then you can do
Start.
yeah.
But it's not going to show up on the screen. So you
No, this will always be that. Now these are different.
So it's not live right now.
It is live right now. They can hear us doing this right now.
And they see it
They're going to see that pull it up on your YouTube or Facebook, and you'll see this countdown clock, and you'll hear us talking about it. And okay, I gotta go play.
Yeah.
Good luck, guys.
Okay.
Sounds like. How do I get that on that screen? I'm not gonna say anything for 5 minutes. Yeah. Just gonna spike pick against Jamie every time. Because I spike pick against Arizona before. Second half of the year.
It's live.
Oh, okay. Play has started. I guess
Set it
right
5
now.
minutes.
So in 5 minutes, the screen on the right's gonna go to the left.
No, it'll just
Oh, okay. Oh, and then we can click. So it'll mirror. It'll
Yes.
mirror itself, and then
Yep.
we can start clicking around through everything.
Yep.
Okay. We'll go around that.
If you guys need anything, just you can text me or just run out there. And did he show you how to record?
no.
Just that button.
Any all ends.
Yeah, and basically, Leah will come and tell you, hey, hand 20 is a good hand,
Oh, okay.
and then just when you 19 ends, press record. Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Hello to all you 701 followers. We are live with levels 5 through 8 of Flight 1C. Just getting ready to shuffle up and deal after break. My name is Josh, and I'm accompanied by Adam. We will be your hosts for the stream for the next 4 hours.
So bear with us. This is our first time hitting the stream, so hopefully we can provide enough commentary for you guys to keep it interesting. Feel free to comment and let us know if you want to hear anything else or have us talk about anything else other than poker, but I know most of you are here to watch poker, so hopefully we can get some good action.
Chat box should probably be live in a few seconds. Or maybe some technical difficulties with that, so we'll just go with the stream right now.
We should be coming back to blinds are 200, 400 with a 400 ante. This tournament, you start off with 25,000 chips. There are 4 flights to enter. We are on day 1C. So if you are interested in getting back into action, there is the final flight today at 5 p.m. $165 entry. You can re-enter once. $330 total buy-in.
So yesterday at 10 a.m. we had flight 1A, 5 p.m. 1B. I think there was around 68 entries for the first flight, 93 or so for the second. I think they're at like 160 total buy-ins through 2 flights, halfway through. Didn't see the current count today, but I think it's in the 70s or low 80s. Have a shot for over 300 entries, so prize pool should be pretty good.
Looks like featured table's own Eric Anderson is at this featured table, which is kind of Inception-like. In the 2 seat, we got Keith Kemper, or Tiny as everyone knows him by. Seat 3 is Garrick Batrup. Seat 5 is Dan Quiggle. Seat 6, Brad Paul. Seat 7, Jim Bowman. And Seat 8, Melissa Thury. Looks like we're getting out to action right out the get-go, with Eric Anderson opening up 6-2 of clubs to $1.3 thousand. Looks like Derek B is calling with King 10 off.
Kind of fitting. I suppose he has to play the first hand on the stream.
Oh, what a flop there.
I mean, if you were going to raise 6-2 of clubs, I don't know if you could find a better flop.
He's got to be a little bit cautious that there are 3 clubs out there and someone might have another club out there, so he definitely wants to lead out, and looks like he did. $2,000. And a quick fold, and Eric scoops the first pot on the 1C stream. Looks like Brad is the chip leader at this table with 64,000 coming in. Everyone seems to be pretty healthy, but with the blind so small, anything can happen. You can go up and down, all over.
Start with 25,000 chips, so about half the table has over that.
Looks like Dan Q is calling Queen 10 off in the hijack, and it's checked and we are going to C3. That action just flew right through. Looks like a C-bet took it down on the turn, and not much to report. Shout out to the Eric and Tiny fan club showing up early in the chat. Always encouraging to hear any type of comments. So if you're rooting for someone, feel free to shout out and say hi. Folds all the way to Eric in the small blind with Queen 10. I'm sure he's going to play that one. Looks like he called the 200 and Tiny checks the 7-4 off in the big blind. We see 3 and the flop is Jack 10, 3, 2 diamonds. Eric leads out for 500 and I can't imagine Tiny's going to play much more than that, and sure enough he folds. Looks like Eric's off to a good start this table.
And we got our first big hand. Rob has aces. Looks like under the gun. Looks like he was a late add to the table. He opens it up, a little over a min raise. And we have a call in the big blind.
I think the last thing you want to see is when you get aces this early and you get no players. So at least you get some sort of action. See what the flop brings here. Comes up 10, 5, 4, 2 spades. Not a lot for Derek in the big blind, so we'll see if Rob can pick up any type of additional chips, but that might be a little bit ambitious at this point. Sure enough, he c-bets, Derek folds, and Rob takes down the pot.
In these early levels, obviously, there's that's kind of what you see. You see smaller pots, people getting into the tournament. I think one of the cool things yesterday, they had some sports games broadcast on a big projector here. So I know the U.S. game was on yesterday, and they had some football games on late. So, you know, if you're wondering about missing a particular game, you could always come in and suggest it be posted. So, kind of adds to kind of the atmosphere around here.
Folds to Eric in the cutoff with 10-9 suited. Looks like that's quite a playable hand for him. So he's raised to 1.5k. Tiny's going to come along on the button with ace-8 off.
Looks like a raise 3-bet to 4.5
Oh, 3-bet,
actually.
even better. It looks like Eric called. And it looks like he check folded before Tiny even put out a bet, which just shows aggression wins in poker. And Tiny is one of the most aggressive players out there. Always fun when he's at the table because I think he loosens up everyone else too.
I think what is his last big win was the state not too long ago.
Yeah, yep.
Kind of good segue. I think they've been announcing here 701 and RPT are tag teaming for the year or the state this year in Devil's Lake, right?
I think it's in Minot.
Or is it Minot? Okay.
Yep. And that's over New Year's Eve. Every year it's the biggest tournament in North Dakota, and I expect the same this year again. See if Tiny can defend his state championship. So it looks like Tiny called ace-3 of diamonds in the cutoff, and Derek raised to 2K with queen-10 of diamonds on the button. Eric called, Tiny called. Quite an action flop here. It was queen jack 6 2 diamonds, so Derek flopped top pair and a diamond draw. Tiny flopped a bigger diamond draw. Eric flopped nothing.
I suspect we'll get some chips in here. 8.2K pot.
And Josh pointed out to me that it is Devil's Lake, so I'll stand corrected on that one.
As I suspected, Tiny
Oh.
put his chips in with the draw.
And Derek called with the draw. And so Tiny is 40%. Turn is the 7 of hearts.
Unapproved.
River is the 9 of spades. And Tiny will not win this pot. Derek will win this pot. I believe Tiny had more chips, so he is down to 3,200 or 8 big blinds. And Derek has doubled up to almost 30,000 in chips.
It's like looks like Melissa went all in for her 7.3K with ace queen offsuit. And took it down.
Eric has opened up 10s to 1,500. Rob is looking down at suited connectors and folds. Looks like Brad will come along with queen jack off in the small blind. And we are going to go 2-way to the flop. Eric flops top set. Is he going to c-bet, or is he going to try and string him along a little bit? Looks like he's reaching for some chips. Throws out a bet of 2,500, and Brad says no thanks and passes along. Eric shows his top set. Easy win. Drags down the pot.
Thanks for correction in the chat between the North Dakota Championship and the RPT Championship. So we have a couple calls here pre-flop.
Can you guys hear the table mic? You can't. Okay. Oh. All right. No, you can go ahead and stay there. Can you hear it now? Yeah. Okay. I also fixed your camera. The 3/4 seat was pointing at me, and so I fixed that. In 10 minutes, you'll see it.
That was Eric Anderson you heard. He's dueling between helping us out with the stream here and playing, so you can see we're on delay because he's obviously on the screen right now putting out some chips with 9-8 suited. Looks like it's with the best hand.
Might be a chop off. But aggression again. Bets the river and takes it down.
While giving us advice about the stream. So, serving two purposes at once here. Tiny's just patiently waiting for a spot to get the rest of his chips in, and 8-4 off is not that spot. I assume we're going to see them go all in sooner than later, especially with the big blind next hand for him. Dan Q is going to limp with ace-8 off here for 400. Eric's going to check in the big blind, and we are going to C3 with two people. Big flop for Eric with 2 6s on the flop. Not a whole lot for Dan Q. Eric leads out, Dan Q folds, and it's another win for Eric. These small pots add up, so bit by bit, you're going to see those chip stacks go bigger and bigger.
I think of the, what was it, 68 on flight 1A, I think we had 17-ish go through, and then last night, I think if I counted right, there's 21, so we're at 38 to Sunday already, and then adding in what we get for 1C and 1D today. If you're like me and you already took both your shots on Friday, 701 and RPT, they have a couple second chance tournaments, one tonight and I think one tomorrow as well. Tonight, actually, I'm pretty excited. At 7 o'clock, there's a bomb pot tournament, and for those of you who don't know, I think they on 701. On the 701 site, I think they give a description as far as what the tournament is, but a quick high level is everybody gets 2 cards, just like Texas Hold'em. Everybody places an ante, no blinds, and everybody sees the flop. So it creates some excitement, and you're playing hands that you normally wouldn't, and you have chances for flops. So a buzz around the room is we should get a pretty good turnout tonight at 7 o'clock. So if you're listening and this Red River Valley Poker Championship isn't for you, I think that the Bomb Park tournament would be pretty exciting. What was it? I think $100 to entry, maybe 110 with the additional, and then you can buy up to 3 times or rebuy twice.
Yep, and I expect a lot of people will be firing 3 bullets into that, just given the nature of how action-filled bomb pot poker is.
Seems like we're shuffling here. Just quick throw the sponsors up on the screen for a few seconds.
Big shout out to every one of them for helping get the stream going, helping 701 keep going, providing nice tables. Just all overall big benefit to 701 Poker, and I think anyone listening should keep these fine folks in mind when they are making their choices.
Even added a bad beat jackpot this year, so I believe all with sponsor funds, so it's a nice addition.
I want to say it's $1,100 is what I heard yesterday.
Yeah.
I think it is, and it's just quads beaten by quads. Both cards play.
Looks like we're 3 to the flop, ace high board. Brad has ace 10 offsuit, and Derek has ace 5 offsuit. Well, actually flop 2 pair. Expect to see some chips get in.
And Rob's the one that's leading into it with Squadouche. Looks like Brad called, and I believe Derek raised to 3.6. That should make some quick work of Rob. I imagine Brad will stick around, but we will see how he plays this one here. Ace 10 strong enough that you want to see one more, potentially. We go 2-way to the flop. Turn is a jack, which puts Brad right back in the lead, and Derek's 2 pair is not looking as pretty as it used to. He goes check, check to the river, and Brad will win this unless Derek can blow him off of his ace high or pair of aces. Derek checks. Brad is deciding to fire. Brad bets 3,000, and Garrick calls the 3,000. We see the notification from Kramer now saying it's Garrick, and we said Garrick earlier, but it looks like the display screen was showing Derek, so we were just reading right off the screen, and we're going to make that fix going forward here. So Garrick calls the 3,000, and Brad takes it down. There might have been a little bit of a stubborn call there with ace 5, knowing that you really don't beat a whole lot, because any ace is going to outkick you here. Maybe the hope was Brad had a flush draw, or maybe you're just a little bit frustrated that your 2 pair just got counterfeited there, but 3,000 chips isn't the end of the world. Folds to Melissa. She goes all in for 7,300 with jacks. Looks like Tiny is putting the rest of his chips in with aces. Exactly what you want when you have exactly 4 blinds. It's never a bad time to get aces, but I would say that's probably one of the worst times you could possibly get aces. Flop is clean. And there's the ace to wrap this pot up. Tiny's going to double up plus some. Looks like he's up to 11 blinds. Melissa takes a small hit, which I guess could be worse. Thank you, Eric Parvey. He made it through yesterday, Flight B, with 160-something thousand chips. He'll be a force to be reckoned with come day 2 on Sunday.
You guys sat next to each other for some time yesterday, right?
About 10 hands, maybe.
Yes, Jason. I might agree there.
Looks like Brad has ace queen off under the gun. And it looks like he has thrown out some raising chips to 1100. Jim B with ace king right afterwards. 3 bets to 4,000. It's going to clear out a lot of the field. Decision's back to Brad.
I'd suspect he probably calls.
Ace queen's a good hand here, but you never know what you're up against, especially when you're under the gun raising and someone 3 bets right after you. Oof. He comes along with the call. We're going to go heads up to the flop.
I think Brad was checking stacks, so we're at probably 15, 16,000 for Jim, and then Brad definitely covers 3 or 4 times over.
The flop being 10-10-9, no one hit anything, so it's a perfect chance for Jim to c-bet and take it down because, as I said before, aggression wins. Sure enough, Brad folds, and Jim wins the pot. Eric limps with 8-4 diamonds, and Tiny rips it all in with 11 blinds with ace-jack off. Perfectly reasonable spot to jam here. It's going to come down to how much Eric wants to gamble. He makes the call, and we are going to see a showdown. Eric is 31% to win this hand. He flops an 8. Tiny turns an ace. 8 or 4 is all Eric needs. I guess the river is going to be a mystery, but it looks like they're counting out chips, so I'm assuming that Eric did not come from behind to win this hand. And, oh, there it is. River is the 10 of diamonds, and Tiny did double up.
Ultra sweat.
For those that are curious in the chat comments, Kramer did not make it through the day, but he did play the maximum amount of hands in Flight 1B, so he would have busted the final hand. If he wants to come on and have a guest appearance and tell us how that hand went, he certainly can.
And I think you know, anyone that missed streams yesterday, I think you could just go to the YouTube page and they have 1A and probably both 5 through 8 and 9 through 12 levels, and then the same thing for 1B as well.
I know I went home last night and I fired up the old stream and watched how I played for the last hour of the day that I was there. Looks like we have some action going on here. Eric opened up King 10 off to 1,500. Garrick, it's not fixed yet. 3-bet Ace 8 to 4K, but now we have Brad sitting in the small blind with queens. It's an interesting spot when you have queens here in the small blind and you're facing a raise and a 3-bet before it even gets back to you. Puts you in kind of an uncomfortable spot, one way or the other. He's super deep here, as is Eric. Looks like he chose to go with a 4-bet to 11,000. And I have a sneaking suspicion that this is going to work. Everyone folds, and Brad's going to take it down. Good size pot pickup without having to even see a flop.
No, they don't have a gaming commission in Texas. You can over there, ask that gaming commission, I think the gaming Texas, and they go, we don't buy the chip plates, and they're like, I love this.
I know that you don't get to see all of the picture, but the picture that we're seeing with the 701 Poker Tour and all the chips with the Ace 7 off, that's really just a advertisement for the free roll. 701, throughout the year you'll get points depending on playing tournaments and cashing tournaments and winning tournaments, and all that rolls into the year end. I think it's usually around January, and they give away a 10,000 main event seat for the winner of that free roll. So. Definitely motivation to come out and play 701 tournaments, and I think that just goes back to the sponsors as well, and 701 overall. It's nice to have the opportunity to play around Fargo. Otherwise, it's an hour drive a couple different ways, so kudos to all the employees that are working at 701 that make this happen.
While that happened, Josh M. played his very first hand of this featured table, raised kings to 2.5K, and got a whole lot of folds and took it down.
We are still at the 400 level, so 200 small blind, 400 big blind, and 400 big blind ante. I think we were talking yesterday at the table. You don't even remember anteing any chips anymore. It's just we've been playing big blind ante for so long that I don't even remember seeing a green chip in forever for the 25s.
I remember it took a while for some tournaments to catch on and want to do the big blind ante, but now that everyone's started to implement it, I don't think it'll ever go away, and it's definitely for the better.
Speeds up action for sure.
Thank you, Jason Kramer. Sunday, January 8th, 2023 at 12 p.m. Season 3 $10,000 free roll tournament. Get your points and get into this free roll. Unless you're going to Frisco if NDSU makes it. If. Looks like Garrick opened up and Rob 3-bet king queen off. And Garrick comes along and the flop is Jack 9-5. Rob picks up a gutter. Garrick technically has the best hand, but facing a 3-bet, it looks like any type of aggression is going to take it down because he has no reason to continue. Sure enough, Rob comes along with a 2,500 chip bet. And sure enough, Garrick folds.
It's a good spot. 2 overs in the gut shot.
Yep, and it's impossible for Garrick to continue on there with ace 8 in that spot. It would have been a real ambitious call out of position. If I'm not mistaken, I heard the blinds went up. So it should be 300, 600 with a 600 big blind ante. Agree. Everyone needs to hit the thumb up, Scott. Let's like this and let's get this rolling and get more people watching. I see the display now shows Garrick's name correctly, so good going forward, and I won't have to mentally correct myself before I say his name every single time here.
We are 9-handed, so we have every seat at the table filled. Our big stack is 70,000, that's Brad, and then a couple short stacks under 10,000 in Melissa and Tiny.
Looks like we're going to go 5-way to the flop here. Garrick flops top pair with ace 3. Josh flops top bottom with ace 8. Looks like Josh is reaching for some chips.
10, that's 26.
He bets 2,600.
One full. 3 full.
And Josh bets a turn with his 2 pair, and Garrett continues as well. I think that gets rid of the other individuals. So we are going to see a river. Does give a 1 card to a straight with a 10, and as it looks like a check. So while we're shuffling here, just go ahead and play one of ads for one of our sponsors. So Randy's Diner. Two locations, one on South University and one in West Fargo on 32nd.
Aptly named Randy's 2.
Keep up the chat. Always a good needle is needles are always fun. I suppose it depends on who you ask. All right, we got 3 ways to the flop. Ace high. Rob's ace jack likely bets and takes this down. Eric and Tiny try to combine their cards, but I still don't think it will matter.
I think they make the nut low.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Yeah, you fixed it 10 minutes ago. It's popped up. You're good. You're good. Oh, perfect, perfect, perfect. Good job. Excellent.
Okay, that was his hand. But I will take Cal.
We'll take one.
Just to wake you up.
Don't threaten him with a good job. What do I not know?
Anyone wondering which game that they're playing? I think before we came to the booth, they had Michigan and Ohio State on. Big game for the FBS playoff implications.
Got some potential action going on here with Rob opening up under the gun with 10-7 suited. Dan Q coming along. Brad 3-betting Kings to 6,000. It's a bit of a big number. It's going to force out a lot of people that may have come along if it was a little bit smaller, which, depending on what you want, that might be what you want. Rob's going to fold, and Dan decides to come along with the call. So we're going to go heads up to the flop.
Almost 15,000. Interesting board. Dan might think he could continue on. Nope. Not this time.
$6,000 C-bet from Brad takes it down. Brad is the commanding chip leader at this table with 131 blinds.
think I heard somebody say about playing on the stream here. We are watching this action 15 minutes behind, just like you are. I do agree, Jordan. This is an interesting feature table that we get to watch here. Flight 1C, this is levels 5 through 8, so the middle 3 levels. Each flight you play 6 hours, which ends up being 12 30-minute levels. Blinds, last set of blinds end up being 1,200, 2,400, 2,400. And then from what I heard, we're going to 3,000. It rolls back to 2,000 on Sunday. 1,000, 2,000, 2,000. All right, so Tiny.
I believe Tiny bet the flop, and Rob called.
And then went all in on the turn.
And then Tiny jammed the turn with nothing. But again, aggression always wins.
In a paired board, you're representing that the pair, and it's it's hard to have it. So.
Oh, everybody does. You got to. It's the rule. I didn't take a fine before. No, every nerd football has a bite taken out of it.
We have Jim picking up ace king here. And he opens up to 4,000. It's a bit of a big number, just over 6 blinds. It's going to take a lot for people to come along here.
Oh, but Garrick finds 6s and decides to rip it in for almost 9,000.
Which, when you have 15 blinds, 6s aren't the worst.
Looks like Jim's probably going to call here.
And he does.
All right, ace improves. 2 diamonds, though. Not a great turn card for Garrick.
He needs a 6, or he will be done. And it does not look like he got it. So I believe that's our first elimination at this table so far today. With that pot, Jim moves up to 38,000 in chips. Good healthy stack early on today.
And as we said earlier, it's a 150 entry, plus 15, so 165 total. You get 2 chances. You can either rebuy up until the end of the 4th level for one particular flight, or play multiple flights, 2 max.
And do you know what he did to me in Vegas? He said I could kiss his Super Bowl foot. Yeah, when he said over to me, he says, "No, you can. You want to go in Super Bowl? You want to kiss my foot?" I didn't do it. Yeah, that's nobody liked him. They didn't invite him back. What do you guys do in Whopper too? But I played poker with him in Vegas, and he was bad alcohol. He put it in my table, and he said, "You want to kiss my foot?"
Take him up on that?
Well, I didn't think he was serious.
Oh, you're like, I would. I didn't want to dumb, dude. I didn't say yes. I would have. If I knew he was serious, I would have said yes. I think I was just kidding.
We got Josh opening up King 10 of Hearts to 1,800. I thought Brad might have been a hand that I might potentially splash around with, being as deep as he is. But he chose to lay down the Jack 9 off, and Josh will take down the pot.
But I met him in Vegas in the poker game.
Yeah.
You know? And nobody made money back. It was like now, they're not $1 million.
Looks like Melissa's moved all in with king 10 off for 7 blinds. Rob makes the call with jack 10 suited.
Rob's gonna hit a jam.
You like grab it and just set it back down. Like, yeah.
Yeah, Jim thinking in the big blind here, and looks like he's going to come along with the almighty jack 3 off.
Odds we see a jack here.
At this point, 80%. We're going to go 3 to the pot. Jim and Rob on the side.
And Melissa all in with king 10 offsuit. So about 15,000. So flop 2-8-2, 2 spades.
Rob leads out the real small bet and gets the jack 3 out there, and Melissa's got to be happy to see her king 10 in pretty good shape here. She seems to dodge a spade or one of the last jacks. Turn no help to Rob. River is a 6, and Alyssa is going to triple up. Just like that, she's back to 24 blinds.
Few chips going to our short stacks. Both Melissa and Tiny are now over 10,000.
Yeah, no immediate short stacks anymore, so I guess the jams go down just a little bit here. Josh looks down at 10-8 suited under the gun. Me, I'm a little bit more ambitious. I probably would have played that one, but no harm in folding that one under the gun here. Rob sees ace-8, and that is a very playable hand. It looks like he's going to come along with an open. Min raise to 1,200. Brad calls 10-9 suited on the button. Jim calls king-9 off in the small blind. Melissa calls king-6 diamonds in the big blind. We're going to go 4 ways to the flop here. Flops 8-5 ace, 2 hearts. Top 2 for Rob. Not a whole lot for anybody else.
No, was not you at all.
Just a small C bet of
I just wanna make sure
1.3.
all the cameras are good.
And that might be good enough to take it down. I can't see anyone really continuing along here.
It would be ambitious.
Yep, I fixed it.
Makes sense to see bet on that board. A couple hearts, straight draws, especially four-handed. I think he has to throw a bet in there. Tiny finds an ace and opens. A little more room for some play with the short stacks not getting in really at a shoving range. To see a few more multi-way pots.
Defend with queen 3 of hearts here is perfectly fine when you're going 4 ways. We're going to go 4 to the flop. Queen jack 7. Queen 3 of hearts flops the best hand. But I don't know how comfortable he's going to be 4 ways with queen 3. It's the the double-edged sword of calling with queen 3 here, is you never know if your queen's good enough. Checks all the way around, 10 on the turn. Tiny draws an open-ended straight draw. Rob gets a pair and a straight draw. Melissa's still sitting there with her 6s. Looks like Josh chooses to lead out 2,000 here. And Tiny decides that that's the perfect spot to jam. He moves all in for 10,000. Folds around to Josh. Now he's got a little bit of a decision of how good is his queen 3 here. Looks like he only has to call about 8,000 into the pot of 19.
Be a bit of his stack though, 26. And he does.
That's a good call. And the river gets there.
And I just looked at Josh and he looked very sad. So I think I knew what the river was going to be.
Must be watching live stream. Tell you hi.
Must not be squirrely enough.
The day's young. A lot of time to get squirrely still.
So that Tiny gets up to over starting stack, knocks Josh down a bit.
Rob picks up ace queen off here. Comes in for an open to 1.2 thousand. I know Rob has a tendency to open up with just double the blind. I think my tendency is to go a little bit bigger early on in tournaments when we're so much deeper, but it's all personal preference type of play here.
Interesting flop.
Super small c-bet of just 700 is all it took to take it down because I don't think Jack 5 is really interested in that hand anymore. You can see Eric and Rob are sitting at the top for the putting chips into the pot at 44 and 42% respectively. Dan limps in with king 9 of spades. Looks like Melissa's giving it some thought with ace 7 suited before she folds. Josh grabbing some raisin chips here with jack 10 of diamonds. It looks like he made 2,000.
I think he could have probably did that with the a7 of hearts too, but Dan doesn't seem to be playing very much, so.
You probably just rip it too with a7 of hearts. I think she only had 18, 19 blinds. I think that's what she was deciding between. Looks like Dan called. We go 2 to the flop. Queen, jack, jack, 1 spade. So Dan flops a gutter and a backdoor flush draw. Josh flops trip jacks.
Dan does not want his draw to come through.
Josh is just going to truck on here with his trips and get a fold and take down the pot. Whole lot of action this hand. Folding around to Eric on the button. He sees Jack 8 off and an opportunity. Looks like he opens it up to 1.7K. And that's going to be enough to take it down. Anytime you can parlay Jack 8 off into 1,500 chips, that's a win every time here.
Or I saw a hand yesterday, Jack 8 off versus 8-9 versus a straight. Both of the 8-9 and Jack 8 flopped full house and then ended up getting 3 full stacks, so 75K pot yesterday. That was a big one for Jason to get him into the spot down the stretch.
I add a note, I believe that was at 100 too.
Sure.
Yeah.
And there was only 300 chips going into the turn, so quite the hand. Everybody's talking about it yesterday.
She hadn't read them yet.
Looks like we're just blind versus blind right now. Rob completes with 8-4. Dan checks back.
First to bet wins this pot. Rob says challenge accepted. Bets and takes it down. Looks like Chris Kuhn and Jason Kramer having a conversation that's better suited for text and not necessarily a YouTube chat, but we appreciate all types of comments, whether it's towards us or towards each other.
Just got word that Michigan scored to go up over Ohio State.
It'd be really nice if we had some TV set up back here so we could follow along too. Like, I think we like watching football, but we're happy to be here giving you guys all the commentary as we go along.
Yeah, but like I said, they have that on the projector out there. So, you know, if that's the game you're watching, you can come on over here. I think late reg until the end of this session. So I think we got about 2.5 levels left here for you to be able to buy in. And then again, this is 1C, so 1D later on tonight. It's the same thing, 165. Last chance to qualify for Sunday for tomorrow, and which would likely be a pretty good first place prize with nearing 300 entries.
Some action going on here. We got Jim limping ace-9 clubs under the gun. Josh opening to $2,000. Tiny coming along with ace-jack off, and now we have Dan calling with ace-king on the small blind. Whole lot of everything going on here. Jim's going to come along, and we're going to go 4 ways to the flop and a raised pot. Everyone's got a little bit of something here. Could be some action. King 10-6. That's a pretty action flop here. So Dan flops top pair, top kicker, and Josh flops a set. Josh just open jams 19,000. It's going to put Dan to the test here with ace-king. I don't know how he's going to be able to get away with this one.
Tiny with the ace of spades in the Broadway draw.
He's giving it some thought here, but I imagine he's going to find a fold.
Dan ended up going all in. So an action, Josh. Check and then, or check. Josh went all in with his tens. The action's updating.
I know you do.
I'm not sure that action's all right now. I don't think Jim called with ace 9 of clubs here.
Two folds, six folds, big round, six fold, I should say, eight fold then.
6 and 10.
Yeah, he was all, he already called all in before.
Looks like it is ace king and tens, and they both got it all in on the flop. So ace king is drawn to running straight, running ace king, and he got neither. So looks like Josh is going to get a nice big double up plus sum to 66,000 in chips.
That actually probably eliminates Dan from this buy-in.
Yep. Getting up and walking away here.
After I was trying to get his draw on the turn there, I was like, I'm not letting this one go.
Looks like somebody did join the 3-seat. I'm sure the name will post soon.
Well, name like that, you gotta work hard for this, but nine fold.
I'd say I don't recognize him, but I don't recognize anybody. I'm just terrible with names and faces as a whole.
Looks like Andrew is in 3-seat.
Yes. Oh,
Fresh buy too. Looks 25,000 straight stack here.
8-handed now.
1, 2 fold.
Let's see if he's going to dip his toe in the water right off the get-go here with 10-7 suited, and he says nope. Rob sees king 8 off. Good enough for an open to 1,200. And Brad wakes up with aces in the small blind here. He three
Quick
bets
raise.
to 3,000 right away. It's a small amount too, out of position.
I suspect Jim to probably call with Jack 10 of hearts. And over the announcements, looks like we're going to 800 big blind. Jim does fold.
And Rob chooses to pass on it as well. And Brad's super small 3-bet takes it down. So yeah, new blind level here. It's going to be 4,800 with an 800 big blind ante.
Puts out about an hour left of late reg for this flight.
You can see the pre-flop raise percent. Rob and Eric, as they put more money in the flop, they also raise more than anybody else pre-flop. 27 and 23% respectively. Aggression is good. Aggression is fun.
These are a little thicker, so these are thicker.
I was like,
I have no wood. Yeah.
he wants that cattle prod that you guys bribed him with. There is no cattle prod, John. Quit doing this. Okay, he's like, I'm doing everything you told me to do. Where's the cattle prod?
All right, first hand of the 800 big blind level.
Even though the graphics don't reflect it, it is 488.
We got Eric opening to 2.1K, looks like. A tiny calling. And Rob calling. Interesting spot. I think that sometimes you can 3-bet this Jack 10 of spades, or excuse me, diamonds. Flat works just the same. Well, not the same, but flat works.
Quarterback, nice try. Nice try. Cattle prod.
We're going to go 4 ways to the flop here. And it hits absolutely nobody. Checks all the way around to the turn. 9 of diamonds, giving Brad a flush draw.
One bet, 6,000. Two folds.
So Eric decides to open pre-flop and then check the flop, so it checked around and then leads 6,000.
Rob calls with the top pair, top kicker. And I can't imagine Brad's going to fold here either.
What, 3.5 to 1?
Seven folds, two players.
He does fold. My opinion, that might be a little bit of a nitty fold, but it turns out that he wouldn't have hit anything anyways, so great fold.
One bet, 11,000.
And looked like it went quick check. I think if Eric fires on the river, it puts Rob into a bad spot.
I'm not quite sure Rob's going to find the fold button there.
Not sure.
He'd have to be a healthy bet. Rob's a good player. I think he can read hands really well. Not a whole lot makes sense there. Maybe ace king. Getting ambitious.
Oh, you see Ryan twice. I like it. Two folds.
Eric limps in under the gun with king 10 off. Folds to the new player, Andrew. Looks like he's going to finally play his first hand at this table here. Opens up queen jack of diamonds to 2.6k.
5 folds, 7 folds, 8 folds, 9 folds.
Folds to Josh in the small blind. He's got a decision with ace 5 off. Doesn't play well out of position there. He makes a good fold, I think. Eric, since he put chips in, easy call for him here. We're going to go heads up to the flop. Flop is ace 9-4, all spades. Eric just snap jams in the rest of his chips, and that's enough to take that one down. I think check jamming might be a better play to get a little more chips in the pot, given the pot size, but aggression wins always.
2.6, so you add a 16k, probably a c bet of 3k, and yeah, it makes sense. You could jam 12, 13,000 more on top.
A win's a win. Anytime you're stacking is always a good time. You are right, Dennis. Rob does not like to fold a whole lot. We did see him fold that king 8 off to the 3-bet that one time, so your story does not check out. He does have a fold button.
Where's the happening spot for the U.S. game on Tuesday?
If you have any U.S. fans out there and you want to go cheer along with fellow U.S. fans, come to Sicky's Bar, the 45th location.
And we're talking World Cup soccer. U.S. plays against Iran on Tuesday.
Yep, win and in, or win and move on, I should say. Should be a intense game. U.S. should be a little bit of a favorite, but Iran's going to try for the draw. For the 3 soccer fans that are listening to this. We have Brad in the hijack with pocket 8s. Can't tell if he's thinking or if he's already made a play.
I think he opened. I think Josh is making some action.
I would
so-
assume so. It looks like there's chips in front of him.
And he went all in, so it looks like Josh.
Brad opened to 3,000. Melissa jammed 9.7 with 5s, and then Josh 4-bet kings to 21,000. I'm sure Brad wants no part of that anymore.
That is almost all in for Josh. Must have had a few.
Brad does fold, and it's going to be kings versus fives all in. Melissa is at risk. Flop is deuce, deuce, deuce. Turn is the 8. That Brad looks a little bit disgusted. He folded that one. River's a 7, and Melissa's eliminated. Josh is going to go up to 59,000. Brad's going to think about all the chips he lost out on.
We had mentioned the sponsors earlier, and I think we tried to have a display up that might not have shown. So just kind of reading off the list of sponsors for 701 is obviously Randy's Diner and 2, right? Tax Lady, Subway, Eagle River Utility Solution, and Absolutely Lazy.
Ambitiously lazy.
Ambitiously lazy, yeah.
It's my word of the day as ambitious anyways, and every time I do that I think of ambitiously lazy.
Shout out Dennis. I think he bought in late last night and begged over 100K. Thanks for the feedback in chat. All right, back to action here.
Josh, with all of his fresh chips, opens up ace-8 off and then cut off. Just limps it in. Tiny does not complete with 7-3 off. Really, really tight fold from Tiny here. Andrew checks, and we're going to go heads up to the flop of ace-4, 5. Andrew checks. Perfect spot for Josh to c-bet, or if you want to get sneaky, you could check behind, since let Andrew catch up a little bit, since there's not a whole lot Andrew could ever really have here. But he bets 2,500, and I cannot imagine Andrew's going to call, and sure enough, he folds. Josh takes down another pot. Feel like he's been on a roll of late, kind of controlling the table. I think the cards have been coming his way. You can see him inching closer and closer to Brad on the chip count. Brad's at 72K and Josh is up to 61K.
Yeah, and it looks like we have a couple new players. Paul just sat in what looks like the 8 seat, and then 5 or 6 seat Rod joined us here.
So I know Paul played last night in Flight 1B and busted one of the last hands of the night. I think he jammed into quads, which usually isn't a good idea. But he gave it the old college try and did not work out well. And here he is. But looks like he's chipped up to 63,000 already early into the day. He's a good aggressive player. Likes to splash around too, so this table should hopefully get a little more active.
And kind of average stack is well over the starting stack here, so few in the low 20s and then chip leader at 75, 72, and a couple 60 stacks.
Sure enough, we go. Paul opens up, and Tiny, Andrew, and Rob all come along. The flop is King Jack 10, 2 spades. So Paul flops bottom pair and an open ender. Rob flops an open ender. Tiny and Andrew have pairs under the board. I don't know how interested they are, so this might come down to Paul versus Rob. So Paul c-bets. Sure enough, Tiny and Andrew fold. Folds around to Rob. I cannot imagine he's going anywhere. Question is whether he wants to call or raise. Being out of position, I think he's just going to go for a call. Sure enough, he calls. Turn is a 10, which is a great card for your Paul. And you're a little worried your 10 might not be good enough, and give you a little bit more hammer lockdown on this hand here. So Paul bets 5,000 on that turn, and Rob says not enough for me and gives it up, and Paul wins his first hand at the new table.
Nice hand, Johnson. You got that still? All right. Seven fold. Eight fold.
We are on hand 51 of the action on day 1C at the Red River Valley Poker Championship. Blinds are 400, 800 with an 800 big blind Andy if you're just joining in with us here. And yes, Eric, my word of the day is also aggression. Ambitious and aggression. I like the A's.
Again, for those who have just joined recently, this is the Red River Poker Championship, usually played after Thanksgiving over Black Friday. We have 4 flights. You can buy in twice in one particular flight, or play multiple flights. It's $165 to enter. I think we said earlier that there is 68 in the first flight with 17 making it, and then 90, low 90s for the second flight last night, and 21 making it, so there's 38 that are going to go to Sunday, and then add in those who played today and move on.
All right, this end here we have Josh limping, Rob limping, Rod completing, Brad checking. We go forward to the flop. That's a great flop for Rob. He flops a double gutter and a flush draw. So despite having the 8 high, he's still 50% to win this pot against 4 people. Great spot for him to bet. And with no one else having much of anything, it's a good chance he's going to take this pot down. But Josh says no to that one. Decides to float once with the king high. Fortunately for Josh, Rob turned the nuts.
I think he could sometimes check back here.
It's a great spot to check if you think your opponent's pretty weak. Try and get some extra chips out of him. But he chose to lead. Looks like 3,200-ish or so. 4,300.
About 2/3 of the pot.
See if Josh wants to get out of line, get a little frisky here, but he chooses to fold, and Rob takes down another pot.
That was a I don't believe you look, but I will fold. It's a good call, Eric, in chat here. mentioned earlier that you can buy in twice. They do have an opportunity if you decide to play twice, or if you play once and move on, you can play again to qualify. And they buy back your chips every 1,000 they buy you back for $4. I do not believe yesterday we had people qualify twice.
So we see Paul under the gun here with deuces. Looks like he opens up for 2,000. Josh with a playable hand here, but under the gun +1. Yeah, depends how frisky you want to get. Given how many chips he has, I like to play 8-6 suited. I like any type of suited gap connectors. Deeper the better. But he folds. Folds all the way around to Jim in the big blind with King 10 suited. Perfectly playable hand, and looks like he calls. So we're going to go heads up to the flop here. Flop is Ace 8-3, 1 club. So Jim doesn't flop much. Looks like he just straight up folded. And Paul takes the pot down. For the sake of speed, Jim just making everyone's life a little bit easier and just moving on to the next hand. No posturing with Jim here.
Shout out to the dealers for this weekend. Obviously, we wouldn't be able to have such a big tournament without the number of dealers that are willing to show up and play their part.
Shout out to John for dealing the feature table consistently every year. On top of just dealing, he has to call out the action nonstop, and Heidi has to sit in the back and click-clack away. Make sure it gets to us.
Yeah, I was told yesterday that kind of that combo of what makes the stream, happen is, and I mean, to be able to follow along with the action, the dealers really calling out to the individual in the background, and it's a thankless job, but I guess we're here to say thank you, kind of letting us have this and be able to broadcast for everyone.
Oh, for sure. Looks like Tiny opened up to 2,200, and Andrew came along, and now we have Brad with jacks. Looks like he's 3-bet to 8,500. Probably going to be an action killer. I don't think Tiny has much interest to come along, but he might. It's Tiny. Ah, look at that. Tiny decides to play along here. He's going to be in a pretty unwelcome spot here. Andrew folds his 4s, and we're going to go heads up to the flop here. Jacks versus Jack 9 is probably not optimal for Tiny. He doesn't have a whole lot left. Looks like there's 21K in the pot. He's got about 11K left in his stack. And that's about as airball of a flop as possible, but we'll see how the action goes. Looks like Brad fires out, looks like about 10,000.
Yeah, quick bet to 10 and gets rid of Tiny.
Now, Tiny wanted to stop and go there. If he just decided to pop it all in on that ace-high flop and hope that Brad has a pair like kings, queens, jacks, you might get Brad to fold every once in a while. I mean, if you're called, you're pretty much dead in the water. But I mean, with the amount of chips in the pot and the amount of gamble Tiny has, man, it could work out.
Looks like we have Tiny opening here.
So Tiny opened up to 2,200 with 8-7 of spades on an 11K stack. Andrew came along with Queen 9 of hearts. Action is on Josh in the big blind. He's coming along with something. Not quite sure what it is yet. But we are going to go 3 ways to the flop, I believe. We can play guess Josh's hand, I guess. Don't know what the flop is, so I guess we'll play guess the flop too, but Tiny looks like he's moved all in. It also looks like Jim might be on the hand of the button here. It looks like he's got some cards. So we can only announce what we see. We don't see what Jim's cards are. We don't see what Josh's cards are.
Does look like Jim folds.
I did not get to see what Andrew did.
I think we're about halfway through the 800 level here with one more. The 500, 1000 level will be the last one before late reg ends.
Looks like Andrew did call Tiny, so whatever it is, it involves a queen, a 9, and an 8 or a 7. Some way, shape, or form.
Just have Josh shaking his head, so he must have had something to hit the board. All right, we got cards coming.
Oh, gosh.
So Josh had King Jack. And
Trying to piece it together here. It looks like, I mean, according to the stream itself, it looks like Tiny jammed with a bottom pair and got called by Queen 9 of Hearts there. Regardless of what happened, I think, I mean, Tiny looks like he doubled up plus some.
yeah, Tiny up to 26,000 already, or after that hand.
Andrew is now the short stack with 5,300, so 6.5 blinds. We hear you about the mics. We're trying not to essentially put our mouths on the mic, but we'll try and get as close as we can here. We're rookies. Give us a little bit of a break here.
Right back to action. We have Tiny at with 7s. He opens it up.
And he takes it down.
Tiny went from, I think, what was he? He had 1.7K at one point to this final table, and now he's already up, or he's all the way up to 28,000 over starting stack. I know I walked into in here to show up before the first break, and Tiny was hoping to replace his current stack with a new one. So I guess he did that for free here.
Anytime you can spin a low stack back up to starting stack, it feels like you're free rolling the tournament, or you're free rolling $165 as is. I think I saw Rob just folded Jack 10 off there. Let's call that an anti-aggressive fold there. Folds to Paul on the cutoff with 10-7 suited. I don't imagine he's going to fold that one.
Looks like he actually called. And then probably you're going to get a raise here from Josh on the button with ace 9 of clubs.
Yep, looks like he made it 2,800, 2,700. Eric's giving it some thought in the small blind before laying it down. Tiny lays it down as well. Paul comes along, and we're going to go heads up to the flop. Big flop for Paul here. 8-7-7. He flops trips. Not a whole lot for Josh, but the perfect chance for Paul to check and hope Josh catches up. And this is an action turn here, so Josh turns the nut flush draw. Paul turns the flush draw. Paul still has his trips too, so Paul takes the option to lead out for 2,600. Josh is choosing just to come along here, and we're going to go see a river. River's a big old blank. So Paul can play this a couple ways. If he thinks that Josh on a draw, he can check and try and get a check raise in here. Or he can just go for value. It looks like he's just choosing to go for value by betting. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to work out since Josh did miss his draw. And sure enough, Josh folds and takes down the pot. Paul takes down the pot.
And so that the pot earlier where Tiny doubled, Andrew must have gotten it all in. So now he is the short stack with 5,300. Moving right along, we are in mid-level of the 800 big blind. We'll have the 1,000 level, and then at the end, late registration will be closed. So any of you guys that were hoping to get here before Flight 1C ends, about a half an hour left.
Eric comes in on the button with a raise to 2.5K with ace-3 off. Tiny folds in the small blind. Andrew's sitting here with 5.5 blinds and probably not that good of a hand if he's still thinking. And he folds king-4 off. Eric's going to take this down. I think with 5.5 blinds, it's probably not the worst idea to get in with king-4. But there's no harm in folding and living to see another day. Looks like the blinds are now up, and we are on the final level of this 5 through 8 stream. So the blinds are now 500, 1,000 with a 1,000 big blind ante.
The players play 4 30-minute levels, and then they go on break. Mentioned earlier that they will play 12 levels today. So we end at the 2,400 level, and then on Sunday we come back to the 2K level. Looks like Rod raises ace-10, and it looks like Josh is continuing from the hijack with 4s. Eric calls, and then Tiny also follows with queen 10 of clubs on the button.
Let's see if Rob can find a call here with 5 deuce off. It's only 1,300 to call, and he might feel he's committed himself. And he has. He's the dark horse in this race. Got a lot of aces, a lot of 10s out there.
And we'll see a flop 5-handed.
Eight, 3-6 flop doesn't really hit anybody. I think Rob picks up a gutter. Josh with his 4s is technically in the lead, but I mean he's looking at 4 other players, and I'm sure he's just not loving this spot right now.
I think what the pot went in 13,000 going into the flop, and Rod c-bets to 5,000.
And what a shock! The aggressive player takes down another pot.
It's a really good bet. I mean, it kind of sort of got lucky that nobody had any connecting of that board, but it is a low board, and he hadn't played very many hands so far coming into this table, so I think everybody had to kind of give him some respect there.
I've seen a couple people pop into the comments with hyping up Eric in his Dallas live shows. I know he's repping a Dallas poker shirt right now too.
Poker House, right?
Yep.
Yeah, you check out his Facebook page. Jason Kramer and I went to Blarney Stone with him yesterday, and we got to treat ourselves to some credit card roulette.
Who's the big loser there?
Of course, Jason.
Of course.
Eric says he never loses, so it was interesting. Instead of using the credit cards, I just used driver's license, so I like that change. So it looks like Andrew found the hand that he wanted to go all in with, so ace-jack off. We already got 2 callers, 6s and ace-9 spades.
I think ace-9 opened up, and then
Oh.
Paul called, and then Andrew just called all in on the button for a little bit less. It all plays out the same though. There will be 600 chips in the side pot, and then the rest of it is in Andrew's main pot. The flop is 6-5-5, and Paul's pretty much got a hammer lock on this hand. He checks behind to give Jim a chance to catch up. 10 on the turn's no good. Paul checks it again. Ace on the river might get some chips from Paul, because I'm sure he's going to fire out here, and Jim's going to probably look him up. Sure enough, he bets 4,000. Jim calls. He flips over the full house, and Jim loses the pot, and Andrew is also eliminated from this tournament.
Not the greatest of rivers for Jim. Jim down to 18,000 and will now be our short stack going into kind of start of the 1K big blind level.
Looks like Paul's building up stacks over there. He's the table leader now at 94,000, 94.9. It helps when you flop full house and let other people catch up. Just proves that even if you flop the nuts, you don't have to bet it out. You can let people catch up and win more chips in the end. Folds to Eric, and he opens up 6s to 2.5K. Folds all the way around to the big blind. And Brad is going to just call with queens here. A little bit of a sneaky play here. Flop is king, jack, deuce. It looks like Brad checked. Eric bet 2,000, and Brad quickly called. Turn is an ace, check, check. If you have queens, you're not loving it here. But river's a 4, goes check, check anyways, and queens are going to take it down. I'm sure that's not how he saw it going in his head pre-flop, but I'm pretty sure he's happy with the results in the end. I'm sure if he would have 3-bet there, there's a good chance Eric would have folded anyways. So he actually probably maximized his profit there.
And probably ended up being, it's kind of lucky that Eric only had 15,000 behind, so he had to really commit if he was going to try to get Brad off his hand. Ace wasn't a very good turn card, but I think he was kind of handcuffed with the amount of chips he had.
Yep. I bet you if Eric has like 40,000, he might be taking more stabs at the pot here.
They're bringing in the ringer. Where's C3?
Oh, and we have Ashley's going to join the 3 seat here. Random update. Looks like Michigan's went up 11 points, so not looking good for Ohio State.
Do you know what the line was on that game?
8. Ohio State was favored by 8. So it looks to be a repeat of last year.
Looks like Ashley comes to the table with 29,000 in chips. She likes to splash it around too. Good player.
Yeah, with Eric, Tiny, Ashley, Rob, and Paul, and Brad too. Hopefully we get some action flops here.
Looks like Josh limped into the gun with King 10 off. Rob sees a couple of cards that are pretty playable. Looks like he's going to come in for a raise to, looks like 3,100-ish. Paul's got suited connectors in the big blind. Reasonable spot for him to come along here. Everyone's pretty deep-ish too that are in the pot here, so. Sure enough, he calls. I imagine Josh is going to come along as well because you're not limping if you're going to fold to a raise. Just a small little raise like that. But, just as I say that, he folds. Flop is 7-4 deuce. Whole bunch of nothing. Looks like he goes check, check to the turn here.
Can't you see this with Paul having more chips than Rob, where he ends up checking back? I think he ends up c-betting a lot, dependent, and I mean, not being Paul with the chip lead and how he's sort of run the last half hour.
Yep, and that just shows how every decision is player dependent, stack dependent, things you wouldn't normally see. So Rob fires a lot at that pot, I think, but this is the perfect circumstance where he didn't, and sure enough, it allowed Paul to catch up, take a bet, and win the pot.
For those that have joined our stream late, this is the Red River Valley Poker Championship, usually played over Thanksgiving weekend. It's a 150 plus 15, so 165 to enter. This is flight 1C of the 4 flights, right? So yesterday we had flight 1A and B, so halfway through. I mentioned earlier, with this flight, we're at roughly 250 entries. I think by all accounts, it's definitely a success this year.
It's nice to not have bad weather for a change. I feel like the last couple years have been bad weather, and it's definitely limited the field a little bit. So it's nice to have a nice, clean holiday for a change. Looks like we're going 4-way to the flop here. I think Tiny opened up, and then Rod, Paul, and Josh all came along. Paul and Josh are in the blinds. Flop is Queen 5-3. Paul flops top pair. Josh flops a gutter and a backdoor flush draw. Tiny flops a pair right in the middle of everything. Tiny's going to continue along here by betting 4,400. As the pre-flop raiser, that seems perfectly reasonable. I don't think it's going to get Paul to fold out of this, but at least he's got the position on Paul. Given stack sizes here, Paul could easily choose to raise, could choose to call, could choose to do a whole wide range of things. Looks like he's reaching for some raising chips. Can't see, there's some Ashley's hairs in the way, but it looks like that.
Actually, probably like Paul to just call this instead of raising, especially versus Tiny.
Yeah, Tiny likes to ramp up the aggression, and he gets a little bit ambitious at times here, so let him hang himself here, because if you're out of position, you might as well just keep checking. So Paul makes it 13,000.
It's not out of the realm that Tiny rips this in.
Tiny's thinking right now, what is Paul gonna check raise me with? I don't know that there's a whole lot of check raises here that are draws. That Tiny beats. Like a 4-6.
Hey, but from Paul's perspective, Tiny has a lot of straight draws here too. So I don't think that Tiny going all in here is gonna make Paul fold. You really wanted to.
Oh, Tiny folding is pretty much the most painful thing in life to Tiny.
Show us the gutter ball.
Oh, is he gonna show the gutter ball? I would assume not. There he shows the king queen. Speaking of ambitious, I see Chuck Stahl commenting in there. He is the sponsor of Ambitiously Lazy. So if you're looking for clothing apparel, hit up Ambitiously Lazy and talk to Chuck. And nice to see you in the stream here, Chuck.
I think another cool thing that they do for this tournament is they have announcers, and anybody going all in during the flight, they call out the hand, so you kind of hear the action around you.
Looks like Rod finds it open to 2.7K and just a nice easy fold all the way around. Quick little pickup.
Kind of nearing the end of the 1,000 big blind level. Again, we said earlier, at the end of this level, the players will get a break and then play 4 levels before the end of this flight, 1C. Also, last chance to rebuy or buy a new stack at the end of this level. Ashley's first pot coming in, and then Rob. So it looks like Ashley will open, and then Rob calls with ace queen of diamonds.
Paul sitting in the cutoff here easily finds a call. Tiny sitting with the powerful 7-3 off, but he might feel he's priced in here.
And he does.
We're going to go 4-way to the flop here. I feel like most of the cards here are covered by someone in this hand here, so I would hope someone picks up something. Let's get some action flop here. That's a fairly action floppy. King 10-2, 2 hearts. So Paul flops top 2 pair. Rob flops gutter to the nuts, and Ashley flops a flush draw. Tiny flops a way to get out of here.
I'm gonna guess we're gonna get Ashley and Paul all in.
Yeah, there's a really good chance with those stack sizes, especially with Ashley C betting here.
I mean, and then so we already had Paul, who had king queen on a queen high board, raise Tiny, check raise Tiny. He's just really kind of hitting the deck here.
So it looks like Ashley bet 3.6. Rob came along, and it looks like Paul made it 15,000. So it's back on Ashley. I can't imagine she's going to fold a whole lot, but it looks like she did make the fold, which is pretty disciplined laydown here. I do not think she played yesterday, but I'm not sure. So this is her first bullet. She might have wanted to gamble it up. Looks like Rob is going to come along, and speaking of ambitious, that might be a little bit of an ambitious call here. And Ashley folded what would have been her flush. Goes check, check on the turn. With a 4th out on the river, it's going to be an easy check for Paul here. He's going to be happy to take this down with King 10.
Real bad run out for Paul, but I don't think really Rob had much of a chance to take that pot away. I suppose he could have represented a heart on the river, especially with Paul checking back the turn. He doesn't often have hearts.
It's just really hard to play that out of position there. I think you're kind of handcuffed with your ace queen there. You just have no idea what Paul has, and it makes it really tough for everyone to continue or to do any type of move.
Yeah, with that, Paul's went on a pretty decent run here. He's up to 140,000. Kind of a big separation now. We had some similar stacks earlier. Brad still has he's still in the 85 to 90 range, and then everybody else is right around starting stack or less.
So we got Rob opening up 2,100 under the gun with King 6 of diamonds. Josh with a playable hand here if he chooses to come along. He folds. Eric folds ace 5 on the button, which is a good fold. I cannot imagine Ashley's going to fold 5-4 clubs here in the big blind.
Couple diamonds, 2 aces on the flop.
We go 3 ways to the flop here.
I think it looks like Rob had c-bet and takes it down pretty easily.
C-bet it with basically a 1 blind bet. Doesn't take much to win.
I believe we will have a new feature table after the break here.
Which should be any minute now, I believe.
Specifically, Paul. But everybody's done
There's a lot of people with my name in this country. I think there's almost 12,000. I looked for it. Yep. I'm like, yeah, what's that out there for me? I'm like, oh crap. Not Norwegian. I swear. Yeah, right. Oh, I'm
Before we hit break, I know we had said Ambitiously Lazy is one of the sponsors. 4 other sponsors that make 701 happen on a regular basis. Randy's Diner, Tax Lady, Subway, and then Eagle River Utility Solution. We had mentioned earlier that there is a bad beat jackpot, but I'll pause there. Looks like we have an all-in from Jim. Yeah, it started the hand with around 18,000.
We're going to have to play the guessing game on the cards if it matters. But I'm not sure it does. Looks like he took it down. If you like our commentary, you're in luck. You're stuck with us the rest of the day here.
Through Flight 1C.
Through Flight 1Z.
If we decide to play the bomb pot, right? That
Oh,
starts
yeah.
at 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
I highly recommend if any of those, any of you out there that are just wanting to get a taste of poker, have a free Saturday afternoon or evening, $100 to enter, bomb pot, ante, and everybody gets to see the flop. We're watching this, and we commentate a lot on the pre-flop action. For bomb pot tournament, there is no pre-flop. Flop, and then everybody gets to decide what they want to do after that.
That'd be an intriguing one to get on the stream here. I'm not sure what's going on with the graphics here. We're not getting many for cards or chips or anything like that.
6-5, king on the turn, 2 pair, he just needs to dodge an 8. Jack on the river. Double up, table 5.
And that's what you hear. Yeah, I mentioned earlier the announcements. When the speaker comes on, that's usually somebody a dealer raising their hand that they have an all-in at their table. Announcer will come and then decide or figure out who is the all-in player, and then really talk through the hand. Said earlier, it kind of adds to the experience and the atmosphere of the tournament. Kind of looking over the leaderboard here for this table. Still Paul's probably in the 140,000 range, and Brad's in the 80 to 90 range. A couple small stacks in the 10 to 12. I mentioned earlier, Tiny only had 1.7K really early in the stream here. I think he's gotten up to 27, 28,000 a couple different times, but he's sitting at 11,000 right now. May had some technical difficulties about 15 minutes ago here, but I think they're working on it.
And they're on break right now anyways. I think we're just waiting for our stream to get to break here too. It literally just a matter of minutes at this point.
What do you have so far? Three players exited?
I think 3 is the right number. It's been a pretty eventful first 2 hours here. Or I guess second 2 hours for them, first 2 hours for us. The next 2 hour stream is going to probably have a little more action as the blinds get more impactful, they get bigger, and people are get their chips in and try and build a stack or get ready for the next shift for Flight 1D at 5 p.m. today.
After break, we'll be at 1.2K big blind. I think not only do they have the bomb pot tournament, but I think last night they did get a survivor table, which is essentially you buy in for a certain number of chips under the 300 limit to your liking, with some rake added on to that, and then you essentially are playing for 2 hours, I believe. So I'm not sure with how many, or hopefully there's a big turnout for Flight 1D and the bomb pot tournament. But as those tables break, I'm sure that they'll have a sign-up list for that. So if that is something that interests you.
And if you're not able to play poker today and you don't make it to day 2 tomorrow, there is also a $200 tournament on Sunday. Registration's at 1 p.m. and it goes until 4:30. There's 30-minute blind levels and then 20-minute blinds post-registration. $210 gets you 25,000 chips and no rebuys. So nice, quick little turbo tournament to end this fun weekend of poker here. I'm sure there's a lot of good action going on here. We can't really commentate on it since we can't really see anything, so we're just kind of, filling the time and seeing what we see.
But I think one thing we've seen over the last 45 minutes is Paul stacking chips.
It looks like it's unplugged in here. So I'll check it out.
And it looks like this 5 through 8 stream is going on to break now. And with that, we are going to click to intermission and take a quick little water break and make sure that we can get this stream all set back up for the next one. So stay tuned. Look for the link for levels 9 through 12 for day 1C. This is going to bring it to a close for this first 2-hour shift.